back to the Futureproof Virtual Conference. Our next session is presented by Anthony Carignano, who is the Director of Marketing at Actiga North America Technologies. This particular session, again, it's all about innovation and technology for adaptation, really interesting new technology for packaging in particular. This is the debut of Signite as a low environmental impact approach to decorating glass packaging for single-use and returnable reusable applications. So the presentation really looks at the current fast-moving consumer packaging megatrends, which include sustainability, hygiene, and e-commerce, which is really sort of forcing brands to have a look more closely at their post-COVID packaging strategies. So now I'd like to hand over to Anthony, who's based out in Atlanta, to deliver this presentation. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tony Carignano, and I am the Technical Director of Marketing for Actiga North America Technologies. And today we are going to be talking about Actiga's Signite container decorating technology. So in this presentation, not only are we going to be talking about the technology, I'm also going to be talking about a couple of global megatrends that are compelling the need for such a technology in the marketplace. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce Actiga as a part of the Altana Group. I'm also going to be talking about some of the current megatrends that are occurring as a result of COVID-19. And then I'm going to jump into Signite, explain basically the process that's used to print it, and then to convert, if you will, or to transfer it over to containers. I'll then talk about a few of the performance attributes of the technology, along with the media and the hardware that's used to apply the technology. And then we're going to wrap it up with a brief summary. So Actiga is part of the Altana Group, which also includes BIC Chemie, which is a manufacturer of specialty additives, as well as measuring and testing instruments. Another member of the Altana Group is Eckhart Pigments, which is a manufacturer of metallic inks, as well as coatings that go into a variety of industries. Atlantis is a manufacturer of coatings that go into wire and cable and electrical applications. Actiga generates approximately 400 million euros in sales on a per annum basis. Something that's quite unique to our business also is that we reinvest up to 10% on a per annum basis of our annual sales into R&D efforts such as Signite. It really helps us to generate great new concepts that we can put out into the market to keep us out front technologically, as well as with regard to innovation. We are present in over 100 countries around the world. In North America, we have manufacturing facilities, not only in Providence, Rhode Island, but also in New Jersey, as well as our manufacturing and R&D facilities located in North Carolina. And as I said before, our global headquarters is located in Germany. Before I jump into Signite, I would like to discuss a couple of the megatrends that are currently occurring in the market. And one of those megatrends is sustainability. And I really think that brands today, aside from thinking simply about convenience as well as reasonable costs and also performance, I think now because of COVID-19 and getting past year one of COVID-19 and seeing that there is an end to the tunnel and light at the end of the tunnel, I think that sustainability has been really brought to the front burner once again. And a lot of brands, as well as a lot of end customers, are asking about sustainability in packaging and how can sustainability be improved. That'll be one thing that I talk about with the Signite application process as well. Something else that's really important that was not really existent before the pandemic, but really has come to the fore, is now hygiene. And how do you promote and demonstrate that your packaging materials are hygienic and that aren't going to transfer a virus once you ship them from a distribution center to the end customer? And so that's where I think Actiga has a unique position in the marketplace for manufacturing coatings that are hygienic, as well as potentially incorporating that type of a format into the Signite process. A third mega trend that really was and has been effervescing, percolating to the fore over the past 10 years has been e-commerce. Because of COVID-19, the acceleration of online shopping has really skyrocketed, and it's probably here to stay. And you're going to see more and more folks ordering their products, their consumables online than ever before in the past because of COVID-19. You're also going to see an increase in the rise of interactivity with consumer product packaging. For example, taking your iPhone and being able to actually tap your iPhone to a container to learn more about basically the origin of the contents, the sustainability message of the brand, and or also other critical information, especially in the pharmaceutical space. So before I get into, once again, Signite, I'd also like to talk about some of the drivers that are compelling an improvement in sustainability. Number one, that plastics are obviously here to stay. I don't see them going away anytime soon, but I do see that there's going to be a mega trend in the improvement in the recyclability of plastics moving forward. Currently in North America, mechanical recycling, which literally is picking plastic recyclate out of waste streams and then finding ways of reusing that, is woefully inadequate for the amount of plastic that actually is landfilled. To a slightly lesser extent in Europe, but I see that there's going to be a significant increase in interest in recycling plastics moving forward, which will require a need for decorating technologies that are much more benign and easier to remove from the surface of plastics. On the glass side of things, I also see that there is probably going to be a renaissance because of COVID-19 and sustainability in how we think about using glass in North America. The glass that's used today in North America as well as in Europe is not your grandparents' glass. It's made much more efficiently and uses a lot less energy to manufacture. But I see moving forward that there's going to be a much higher interest in reusing glass, either through a milkman process, if you will, where the glass is returned to a processing center, washed, sterilized, then sent back to a brand, refilled with consumer product, shipped back out to the consumer, and then basically it goes through a continuous loop process. The United States today, as you can see in this graphic, is for a highly developed country, has a very poor track record with regard to recycling glass compared to some of our European counterparts. So let's jump into Signite as a decorating technology. And let's also talk about some of its value benefits for helping to reuse glass as a sustainable method of packaging. So Signite, it uses a patented chemistry as well as hardware for additively building colors and rich labeled decorations onto rigid packaging. Signite decorations can also be printed using literally any narrow web UV press out there in the market today, either via 100% flexographic approach or using a hybrid process. The media that comes off of a Signite manufacturing process, it really, we believe, will be transformative moving forward in the glass decorating industry, as well as the increasing interest in the reuse of consumer product packaging in the marketplace. As you'll see in the following slides, Signite, it provides a premium look that you can't necessarily get in a no-look format from pressure sensitives. It offers also waste reduction that you can't get in certain cases from pressure sensitive labels or screen printing or direct to object printing process. And it also really resonates with an increasing interest now in the recycling and or the reusability of glass in the market. So what is Signite? Well, if you take a look at it anatomically, it definitely does look like a no-look pressure sensitive label, but it's printed without a face stock. And it also basically is printed so that we're not necessarily printing a continuous roll of film, but literally what we're printing are individual micro labels that make up a constellation of a decoration that is transferred over to a container, which is quite unique. It gives the container a look and premium feel of either being screen printed or direct object digitally printed, which would be incredibly difficult to do, especially with glass. If you compare Signite decorating technology versus pressure sensitive labels, the savings alone from the decoration area that's used is approximately 80%. Because we're not continuously casting a face stock onto a container. Once again, what we're doing is printing a constellation of micro labels and then transferring them over to a container. The lamination area completely goes away, as I'll show in a couple of the upcoming slides. Signite, as a part of its structure, contains a clear laminate layer that acts as both backbone as well as a protective surface for the decoration itself. The carrier film that's used is slightly reduced because of the minimalist way that we were printing this technology. The matrix waste that typically is associated with a face stock completely goes away. That's no longer needed. And we really economize on how much adhesive that's used in this process when we print via the Signite process. So the first layer that goes down, we refer to that as the L3 layer. That's the liquid laminate layer. It's literally a clear oligomeric UV cured coating that's printed in registration first onto the surface. The surface that we're printing on at the moment is a biaxially oriented polypropylene surface. Where we aspirationally would like to go, and we're in the currently in the process of doing so, is going to either using rPET, something that has been generated from recycled plastic as the primary carrier film for this technology. We are also investigating the usage of supercalendered craft paper, which is considered a highly biorenewable surface and used by over 50% of narrow web printers in North America today. Aspirationally, where we would like to go with the carrier films used in this process is to a surface that is industrial compostable, so that then we can truly say that the LCA and the amount of CO2 generated with this is extremely low, and that the recyclability and the circularity of this process is extremely high. After we print the clear L3 layer, we then print our process colors in full Pantone. The last layer that's printed onto the carrier film is actually several different layers. One of the layers, if you're looking for high opacity in your graphic art, is going to be a white, high opacity white. We can also print apply true metallics onto the surface, either before or after the process colors. Ultimately, the last material chemistry that goes down is the pressure sensitive adhesive. And the pressure sensitive is formulated around what type of surface that the decoration is going to be going onto, whether or not it's going to be a wash off type of label format or a permanent label format, as well as the type of ambient that this label is going to be coming in contact with. So the appearance, once again, of Signite, it really looks very similar to something that's been screen printed onto glass or direct to shape digitally printed onto glass. The one graphic here is of Cardinal Sins, which is a distillery, St. Louis distillery, located in St. Louis, Missouri in the United States. This is a great demonstration of a collaboration that's been taking place over the past 9 months. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see a decoration from a brand in Canada called Tipsy Hedgehog that we've also printed via the crystal process. So the value proposition, moving on, of Signite versus UV screen printing, first of all, basically, we can achieve very high opacity Pantone colors with an no-look format, which is something that, yes, you can do with screen printing, but from time to time, it's extremely difficult to get the same type of high opacity whites with screen as what we can actually do with the way that we print our technology onto glass. Our color consistency is extremely high from station to station, and that's because we're using a flexographic press where we have a lot of color matching up front and also using a hybrid digital process, which basically electronically dials in the color matching true to basically the graphic file that's given to us. So there's no inconsistencies really with color matching from job to job, high control over color matching, which is quite difficult to do in any type of screen printing job shop. There are no screens with our process, and that means that we don't have to go through the excruciating process of registration and making sure that registration from color to color is on point because we're using a flexographic as well as a hybrid digital process and laying down our colors. There's no cleanup with our process because all of the printing takes place on a in-house press at the moment. So for the brand or for the decoration house, you would be receiving rolls as opposed to printing this material yourselves, which saves a significant amount of time between jobs. The only thing that you'll really need in order to fulfill a job is the actual media roll that we print for you and then ship to you based off of our online platform that you would order the roll through. Another important concept that is different from screen printing is there's no post-curing or baking that's involved in order to fully cure the screen printing, the UV screen printing that goes onto glass. We do that in the printing process ourselves. As we go through the printing process, UV lights are fully cross-linking, and we make sure that the chemistry is fully cross-linked before it's actually shipped out to the end customer so that they can apply it onto their glass. As I'll show you in a few slides, the footprint of our applicator system is very compact versus a full screen printing system, so that economizes in space within the decorating house production floor. Another benefit is that we can print in a full 360, 100% precision wraparound process with our technology, which is very difficult to do with screen printing. And it becomes more difficult with each color that you add to the decoration. A unique part about our decorating technology as well is that we can create matte as well as textured and also holographic features on the surface of the L3, which is virtually impossible to do with screen printing. As I mentioned before, we can print with ultra short run, so that typically with the screen printing process, to make a job economical, a minimum print run is typically about 20,000 impressions. Ours can be as minimal as 1. So that really significantly changes the game with regard to how cost effective we can be with getting this technology into the market versus screen printing. Another technology that is frequently looked at when Signite is considered is direct-to-object printing. Direct-to-object printing is a very efficient way of digitally printing with piezo inkjet directly onto the surface of glass. However, glass that is printed using direct-to-object digital printing has to be pre-treated with a primer, and because the inks are very soft and in certain cases lubricious, there has to be a protective overcoat that goes over the print and cured before these containers can be shipped out into the market. Direct object printing, it gives brands the ability to meet customers' demands for a great choice of product offerings and customizations that are quite difficult to do with conventional pressure sensitive label printing, as well as UV screen printing. Some of the benefits of Signite decorating versus direct object printing. Signite alleviates the need for print receptive primers that are used with direct to object with top coats. It also gives you, once again, the ability to create matte as well as textured appearances on the surface of the glass, as well as to embed holographics in the surface of the glass. We also have the ability now to incorporate true metallic luster pigments into our decorations, which is something that is only now emerging in very short or limited amounts in direct to object printing. Performance-wise, Signite also allows the ability to glass has a lot of defects and flaws in it, which can be either craters, cracks, seams in containers. Signite allows to conformally apply our decorations over the surface of these defects and flaws, which is something that is quite hard to do with direct-to-shape printing, and that's one of the reasons why you do have to use a print receptive primer with that, so that you have a truly flat surface to print on. There is no lamination required with Signite versus direct-to-object printing. And our way of applying decorations onto the surface of glass also allows for us to use higher viscosity, higher oligomer content coatings, as well as inks, which give more of a propensity to use our decorating technology in indirect food contact type applications. So let's talk now about some of the performance attributes that you find with Signite that we built into the technology based off of our conversations with brands, as well as some of the requirements that are out there in the glass industry today. So solvent resistance is extremely high. We can far exceed 50 MEK double rubs once we lay down basically a Signite decoration without the ink being damaged. We go through a lot of abrasion resistance testing with our products before we ship them out, for being totally mindful that most of our decorations will go onto glass containers that will then go on to filling and pack out lines. So you want to make sure that you have a high pencil hardness, as well as a scuff resistance and scratch and abrasion resistance. We are also mindful that a lot of our decorations will be used either, for example, on wine bottles or beer bottles that will potentially go and sit for a number of hours in an ice bath. So we test the veracity of our decorating technology immersed in ice water for a number of hours to make sure that the decorations aren't prematurely peeling off of the glass. And then finally, we also are mindful that glass that's decorated with our technology could potentially sit in a warehouse for multiple months at an elevated temperature. So we also evaluate how robust the decorations are when they're applied to glass and then stored at a 50-degree C ambient over a certain period of time. So the Signite decorating technology formulations that we use for glass and basically reuse applications where it's expected that the decoration will exfoliate off of the glass under certain circumstances is really based off of the work that Actiga has done in using this technology on plastics. And it goes back several years ago to the collaborations that we had going on with the Association for Post-Consumer Plastic Recyclers, where we tested the exfoliation properties of the decorating technology using their PET S04 protocol, and where we had very successful results, printing in a 5-layer format the decorations onto PET, and then basically taking the PET container and trading it down to chips, and then having those chips go through an elutriation process where the decorations fully exfoliated off of the PET plastic. So the same applies when we apply these label decorations onto glass, and it's expected that that glass is going to be going through an industrial dishwasher, where it's expected that the decoration will quickly wash off of the glass, so the glass can then be reused. Or we can also develop the formulation so that it stays permanently on the glass, so that it survives multiple heat, ambient temperature cycles. So let's talk about the hardware next that we use with this decorating technology. The hardware has been developed as well in-house in East Providence. It basically provides operators with a very simplistic, straightforward way of applying the media. It reduces the electromechanical complexities for maintenance as well as the integration. So the hardware technology can also not only be standalone, but it can be used on a brand's filling line. It can be adapted to that. It uses basically a 110 volt, 15 amp outlet. So it can be used in semi-production as well as full-scale production locations. The decorating hardware can address containers with diameters up to approximately 6 inches. 6 inches is a pretty big bottle. Label heights can be applied anywhere from 1.5 inches all the way up to 8 inches. The hardware that we've manufactured, it's shipped with several applicator pads in accordance with what the diameter is of the container that's going to be decorated. So we'll ship the hardware out with pads at lengths from 3 all the way up to 15 inches to accommodate that circumference. This is a quick video of what it looks like to transfer decoration onto a glass container. Okay, let's talk quickly about the business model that we have adapted for this technology. So typically what would happen for us with either a brand or a container decorating house would be that we would ship them one of our hardware systems. And we would set the hardware system up. First of all, we would ship that hardware system with startup media printed rolls so that the system can be calibrated. We initially anticipated that we would be shipping the hardware and quickly to be followed by one of our technicians. We've quickly learned over the past 6 months how to remotely install hardware using Zoom. So after the hardware is installed at the brand or at the decorating house, then what we typically do is go through a round robin of sharing of artwork and making slight modifications to the artwork so that it will show its best once applied to a glass container. The artwork that we use really needs to be in vector file format, and typically that's with using Adobe Illustrator. All of the artwork really needs to have font-wise. The fonts do need to be highlighted in the artwork, and we need to basically check internally for you the artwork before we can print it and then apply it onto a container to make sure that it shows the right way. So once we get through the pre-press artwork process, we will move forward after that once we have gotten your buy-in on the artwork with applying it to a couple of containers, at least for the first few rounds of our collaboration with a brand or a decorating house, to make sure that it has the look that the brand or the decoration house is going for. Once that approval is given, we will ship the full roll or set of rolls of decorated media out to the brand or the decorating house. they'll have the hardware on site, and all they really have to do is apply the printed media rolls onto the hardware applicator to start decorating containers. Once we get through this a few times with the initial startup phase, it becomes a very intuitive, very repetitive, cyclical process of basically accepting the artwork, making modifications to the artwork, sending out either decorated container demo samples, or basically just going forward with the approval of the artwork and shipping the printed media to the brand or the decoration house. So with that, I'd like to summarize this by saying that Signite uses really novel patented UV chemistry based off of a decorating process for glass containers that allows for outstanding print quality and the ability to create a no-look, unique design on glass. It is a perfect match for brands that are interested in launching circular delivery systems that take inspiration from the traditional milkman model that's been out there on the market for decades, in an effort to save material and reduce waste and improve on the sustainability of packaging. Signite can be formulated to meet the needs of a wide variety of indirect food contact applications, as well as reuse applications covering beverage, hygiene, as well as food. So with that, I thank you very much for your time and your attention today. And I look forward to any questions that you might have with regard to the presentation or more about Signite and where we'll be placing it next in the market. Thank you very much.